Imagine that it is late June of 1862. The 7 Days battles rage across the outskirts of Richmond, Virginia, the capital of the Confederacy, leaving bloodshed and heartache in its deadly wake. The Union Army of the Potomac, led by General George B. McClellan, and Confederate forces newly under the command of General Robert E. Lee, are engulfed in a violent struggle to determine the fate of a nation. McClellan had clawed his way up the peninsula and was intent on capturing Richmond. However, he faced fierce opposition from Confederate forces, determined to defend their homeland from the impending invasion. The two armies converged constantly in multiple engagements that were hotly contested, but none were decisive victories for either side. Lee managed to push McClellan back little by little, but at the cost of enormous casualties. Following the Battle of Savage's Station on June 29th, Lee had managed to force McClellan into retreat southeast towards Harrison's Landing on the James River. On the morning of June 30th, the fatigued troops of Major General Stonewall Jackson, returning from the Shenandoah Valley upon command of General Lee, met the rear guard of McClellan's forces under Major General William B. Franklin at White Oak Swamp. With Lee occupying McClellan 2 miles south at Glendale, the Confederacy had a golden opportunity to turn the tides of the war in their favor. Stonewall Jackson had just returned from the Shenandoah Valley and his successful campaign that he had waged there, and all of a sudden all this was happening with McClellan coming up the peninsula and trying to take Richmond, and here you have the 7 Days battles. And here Lee needs all the help he can get. He's being pushed against the wall basically, trying to defend Richmond. And so he calls Jackson down. Jackson and his troops are very tired, having to rush all the way down here without any sleep for days, and once they get here, they're very tired. He's very tired. But now they find themselves at White Oak Swamp about noon on June 30th, and they meet the rear guard of McClellan's army under General Franklin here, and Lee is fighting forces 2 miles south at Glendale, and they have these guys right here. And so Jackson decides to set up artillery right there below the swamp. He found the bridge burned, so he could not cross the bridge right there across the creek. And he considered the possibility of rebuilding it, but he also knew that any engineers that would have to build it would be picked off by Union sharpshooters quite easily. So he had to find a different route to go on that. So he used some of the units under his command to go scout for an easy way to get across the creek, which I believe General Wade Hampton under him eventually did find one that was suitable enough for infantry to cross. But until then, he set up his artillery and started barraging the Union artillery line, which was up there on top of I guess you would call it a hill or a ridge type. They're not mountainous, but you know what I'm talking about there. And they started barraging, took them almost by surprise. They were the last of McClellan's army to get across the creek, and they were barraged by McClellan's artillery, his batteries, and a lot of their cannon were taken out, a lot of their troops were taken out, and then from there they finally caught up, understood what was going on, and it turned into an artillery battle.
In the good times, you probably just don't give it as much thought. But I'm a realist that I go around giving it thought all the time. And I believe to every action, there's a reaction. So if you do something that's hurtful to another, it, I feel, has a way of coming back and hurting you. And when you pass on, you hope and pray that God will take your soul into His kingdom and let you see all of those that you loved and have passed on before. If you take a young person or a person who's tried to live and tried to do and went to war to try to save their country or whatever they were doing, believing strongly in their doing the right, perhaps their soul is going to express that, and I think God knows what all of us do. If they've lived right, I think their soul will pass on. All those young men and practically just young children, teenagers and things that died and shot out there and laid and maybe suffered and things. Right now we live on property that where some of the Civil War was fought. The Battle of Seven Pines was fought out here. And I can't say maybe the home's built on on someone's, not a grave per se, but who died on this soil and all. But still, they may have always died calling for their mother or wanting to see their family and things of that nature. And how do I know that their soul and their spirit did not in some way come back and visit with their loved one or visit with their mother and father? All those things I don't know. I'm not empowered to know that, but I'm not doubting it. I'm not doubting it one bit that somehow or other they are granted that privilege. Those things I don't know. I don't know. I only know that if you believe spiritually, then you should practice what you say that you believe.
I do believe in the possibility of ghosts. Cannot say for sure whether there are spirits that still remain on that property. I know that it's very likely with the amount of casualties there as if any other area of fighting in this area. Personally, I have not had any direct, or at all, I don't think I've had any experiences involving spirits of soldiers of the Civil War living in this area or any other type of spiritual encounter otherwise. But I do believe there is a possibility in the amount of energy and the trauma of what happened there. I'm sure one of them cannon shells going off, killing several people at once, them having no idea that it would happen, just bam, they're gone abruptly. And who's to say that they don't know that they're dead, that they're still out there?
Those who died on that battlefield, they didn't die right away. They laid there and knew that they were going to die and wanted to see, especially a younger person, wanted to see his family, his mother, something. Perhaps that soul has a way of trying to come back and connect to that.